If I ask any Christian here, anyone, even these ones here right now that are hearing our discussion, if I ask for Jesus to help me right now, if I come to Jesus, will he help me? Will he embrace me? They'll all say yes. In the case of that story, she begged for Jesus' help, and eventually Jesus dealt with her. So he didn't want to deal with her simply because she was a Gentile and she was un-Israelite. So there was a difference in regards to nations.
So shall I reply to that? So even in England, we have examples of using diminutive terms in affectionate ways. And you're simply, and the Greek term is a diminutive. That's actually the Greek word that is used. It's more akin to puppy than it is to dog, the harsh sounding word that we translate it as and hear it as. Because in English, dog is a harsh term.
In Greek, the use of the word kunarion is characteristic of compassion. Jesus Christ removed the sting of the word dog, kuon. The woman could feel the difference in her ears.
Do you see how that sounds? Because that's what Muhammad was doing. His context, in the context into which we were speaking, the lowest category of human being in pagan Arab culture and amongst the Muslims was the black guy.
Prove it.
Hello everyone. In this video, we will discuss a difficult and thought-provoking question raised by a Muslim. Why did Jesus call the Canaanite woman a dog? This question comes from a passage in the Bible that has caused confusion and debate for many people, especially in interfaith discussions. Let's take a moment to watch this Christian-Muslim debate video.
Clued up on this, but it talks about some people, that some nations, they're cursed and they're not on the same level. So the Gentiles, that it talks about other nations, and sometimes it talks about them in a derogatory way. So if you're going to follow what Christianity is teaching, then you're going to look at these people like they are second rate. Like, I'll give you an example. Some people often talk about the story of the Canaanite woman, where Jesus did not want to help her because she wasn't an Israelite. She was a Gentile. He even referred to her as a dog. So we all know, even if we're lovers of dogs, that dogs are beneath us. We're not on the same level. If it was a matter of you dying and a dog dying, and you ask me which one should die, I'd say the dog, simply because you're over the dog. You and the dog are not on the same level. So what I'm trying to say is it does promote that some people are better than others, or some people are there's different levels, or in regards to nations. So it's always been. This is even back in the Old Testament.
So let me reply to that in full. Okay. So the first reply to that is, when you actually look at the passage, there's two terms for dog in Greek. Okay, the term that is used when Jesus says that it would be wrong to give the meat to the dogs. The term that is used in the Greek is what's called a diminutive. A diminutive, we have it in Spanish, and I'm bilingual. Spanish is my second language. A diminutive is not always an insult. A diminutive can actually be a compliment. In the north of England, they'll use terms like flower, petal, pet. They use the word pet in the north of England, and it's not an insult. It's a term of affinity. Now, I've used that term myself. And people outside of northern culture have thought that I'm being insulting, but I'm not being insulting. And that's actually what's happening when Jesus uses that term dog to the woman. He's using a diminutive that isn't an insult, it's a term of affection. In the same way that in the north of England, they say, hey up love, hey up pet, hey up petal, right? It's not an insult, it's an informative term. Now, hold on one second, because if you're going to say that this is a problem, then you should, if you're consistent, have a problem with Muhammad who said that Satan looks like a rusky black man. Muhammad who said that you should obey your leader even if he is an Ethiopian with a head like a raisin. Now, that is kind of insulting language that Muhammad used of black people, right? And so the reality is, bro, if you're going to condemn that, then you should condemn Muhammad.
Wow, that's really harsh. How could Jesus refer to someone who is asking for help by calling them a dog? Regardless of how we view this, the term dog is clearly an insult. So, how should we understand the use of this word by Jesus? Jesus used the term dog to refer to non-Jews, but there is an unusual difference here, and the woman responded to this difference. Jesus used the term dog in its diminutive form, indicating smallness, kunarion. He did not use the common term kuon, but took its diminutive form, kunarion, small dog, house dog, for a specific purpose. Jesus did not use the regular word for dog. Instead, he used a diminutive form, kunarion, which refers not to wild street dogs, but to household pets, beloved animals. In Greek, the use of the word kunarion is characteristic of compassion. Jesus Christ removed the sting of the word dog, kuon. The woman could feel the difference in her ears.
You should condemn Mohammed. But the question is, will you be consistent? Are you brave enough to be consistent?
I'm saying,
Don't be distracted by these people. They're just getting sorry.
They're talking across. What I'm saying to you is he refused to help her based on that, based on the fact that she was a Gentile.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's saying, you know, like I might say, pet to a girl, but we're still on the same level.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, if I called you a dog and refused to help you, that means I'm looking at you like you are beneath me.
Did he help her?
Yeah, them Gentiles or dogs.
Right.
Eventually,
So,
but
no,
she had to beg for help.
If you look,
and usually, sorry, but let me just finish.
Yeah.
If I ask any Christian here, anyone, even these ones here right now that are hearing our discussion, if I ask for Jesus to help me right now, if I come to Jesus, will he help me? Will he embrace me? They'll all say yes. In the case of that story, she begged for Jesus' help, and eventually Jesus dealt with her. So he didn't want to deal with her simply because she was a Gentile and she was an Israelite. So there was a difference in regards to nations.
So shall I reply to that? So the actual.
Sorry, I don't cut you. The point I'm trying to make is that when you say that he was saying it in like a nice way. It's clearly in that reference, it wasn't nice.
So let me reply to that.
Yeah.
It clearly was nice, and we know that it was nice because, no, I didn't interrupt you.
You didn't.
So let me speak without interruption. It clearly was a term of encouragement because rather than being discouraged, the woman continued to ask. And the reality is, if you speak to any Christian who's mature in their spirituality, they will tell you that no, Jesus doesn't always answer your prayers. He doesn't always give you what you want, because sometimes he either wants you to ask because it draws faith out of you, or it's not good for you, the thing that you ask for. And so Christians understand that Christ taught persistence in prayer. That's one of his key teachings. That's the parable of the widow and the unjust judge. One of the parables that Jesus is teaching is about persistence in prayer. And as I've already demonstrated, even in England we have examples of using diminutive terms in affectionate ways. And you're simply, and the Greek term is a diminutive. That's actually the Greek word that is used. It's more akin to puppy than it is to dog, the harsh sounding word that we translate it as and hear it as. Because in English, dog is a harsh term. We do use dog as an insult. So when we see it in the text of the English, we read it in that sound, because in our language to call someone a dog, it is an insult. But to call someone I'll give you a perfect example. Often, male lovers of women will call them kitten, but it's not seen as an insult. Like, kitten. They'll talk to one another with these affectionate terms, using diminutives. So I've given you plenty of examples to demonstrate it's not necessarily an insult. Secondly, Christ did answer her prayer. That's the important thing. And if you actually look at that exchange and that dialogue, yes, she was persistent in her prayer, and Christ was drawing out that persistence from her. Why?
In the passage of Matthew 15:21-28, Jesus compares the terms, the lost sheep, ta probata ta apololota, verse 24, children, teknon, verse 26 above, to the Jewish people as a nation and the people of God in a broad sense, while other nations are not referred to as children. Bread. Greek artos, which belongs to the Jewish people, is the miracle of Jesus Christ in his ministry of healing diseases and casting out evil spirits. Dog, kunarion, literally small dog or puppy, is a term used by Jews for the Gentiles. Jesus Christ was not speaking from his heart, but using a common expression among the Jews. The Jews commonly referred to Gentiles as wild animals in the field, such as oxen, goats, and donkeys. Food that is not to be given to dogs, or to Gentiles non-Israelites according to Rashi's interpretation, means there is a likening between dogs and Gentiles, And ye shall be holy men unto me, neither shall ye eat any flesh that is torn of beasts in the field. Ye shall cast it to the dogs. Exodus 22:31. And from this, Jesus teaches us all that he is for all nations. Even though dogs are considered despised animals, there is no doubt that there are tame groups of dogs, roaming around houses, playing with children, and waiting for leftover food to be thrown away. Jesus, even though he used the term dog, little dogs, kunarion, for the Canaanite woman who was pleading for his mercy, the woman still asked for his mercy and accepted the term without being offended. Instead, she sincerely and boldly responded, pursuing the blessing from the giver of all blessings. The response of the Canaanite woman demonstrates her faith and humility, which is the essence of the teaching in this story. And she said, "Truth, Lord, yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from their master's table." Amazing, despite the reality, the Canaanite woman, Syro-Phoenician, see Mark 7:26, did not defend herself nor take offense at being called a kunarion, little dog. Instead, she seized the opportunity from every word spoken by Jesus, recognizing that the little dogs, ta kunaria, would eat the crumbs, psikion, also in its diminutive form, that fell from the table of tun kurion, their little masters, referring to the children. It seems that Jesus was pleased with the woman's answer. Here was a faith full of zeal that would not accept the answer, no. A woman from among the Gentiles, Goyim, her concern for her daughter led her to bravely break through cultural, traditional, and gender boundaries with perseverance and courage. This is what eventually amazed Jesus. In this event, it was proven that the ministry of Jesus also transcended the boundaries of Jewish exclusivity. In the end, the woman, who was not of Jewish descent, received mercy from Jesus. She had come to the right place, had the right attitude, and received his grace, which broke through the racial mindset of the Jews at that time. Then Jesus answered and said unto her, O woman, great is thy faith. Be it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour, Matthew 15:28. Through this story, Jesus laid the foundation that the kingdom of God also applies to the Gentiles, Goyim. This marks the entire history of Christianity. The rejection by the Jews became an opportunity for the Gentiles, Goyim.
But I noticed that you haven't addressed my point, which is that Muhammad, listen to these words. He said that, using an example of when you should obey your leaders and how you should obey your leaders, he was saying that you should obey your leader even if they are an Ethiopian with the head like a raisin. Now think about what that means. He's essentially saying that the worst kind of human is your leader, you should obey them. And what did he define as the worst kind of human? An Ethiopian with the head like a raisin. Now, that's obviously a contextualized racist. It's like me saying you should obey your leader even if they are a convicted pedophile. Do you see how that sounds? Because that's what Muhammad was doing. His context, in the context into which he was speaking, the lowest category of human being in pagan Arab culture and amongst the Muslims was the black guy.
Prove it.
And he's saying, obey your leader even if they are an Ethiopian with a head like a raisin. So you shouldn't just avoid that.
Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never did none of that, brother. If he did, prove it. Prove it. And I'll say, you know what, you're right.
Don't listen to these trolls.
Don't listen to the facts, the logic.
Don't listen to these upset trolls. Don't listen to these upset trolls. You just press on with your conversation, bro.
That's what he's saying.
Their bad manners should not affect you. You should be able to continue with your conversation.
If anything, you're doing much worse than what I'm doing. Do you understand?
In regards to what you said about
you're doing much worse.
Yeah.
Hang on, bro, 2 seconds. In regards to the Ethiopian comment, I'm going to have to look into that. That's something that I'm not aware of.
And then come back and talk to me.
That's no problem. Probably next week or something.
Yeah.
You're here every Sunday.